Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy Boxing Day to those people in Canada and people in England. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. I hope I got that right. It is Boxing Day in Canada and England, right? I think so. Anyway, I was going to talk about Donald Trump and his his Merry Christmas message. Basically, I don't even know if I could say this. It's not over 30 seconds yet. He basically told anybody that's not with him to go to HE double hockey sticks. That was his Christmas message. It was the usual ranting, angry, hateful, ranting nonsense. And I was going to talk about that, but then, you know what? I was like, what's the point? The people that are going to vote for him love this stuff. They are angry, they are hateful, and they love this guy. And, what's the point of even talking about it? The people that have woken up and see him for what he really is aren't going to vote for him, and, what's the freaking point? I was going to talk about a channel that I came across, and this guy, I picture this guy as being the ultimate Trump supporter, even though from what I've seen, none of his videos are political. Okay, all his videos, the link is down below. His channel is Bruz, BRUZ40, Bruz, BRUZ40, all one line. I'll put the link down below. All he does is chug malt liquor. And apparently, you'd figure somebody that chugs malt liquor wouldn't be middle to upper class or upper class. But you look at this guy; he's in his man cave in his most recent video is Christmas Eve, and he's walking around his basement man cave, and it's got to be like $1 million, $2 million house at least. I don't know where it is, and he's talking about Ninja Turtles. His Ninja Turtle pinball machine. It's a huge house, and he's just all he does is walk around the basement, this huge, expensive man cave basement, and point out his Snoop Dogg doll. Yeah, he's got a little Snoop Dogg doll that sits on a lamp. His Ninja Turtle. Yeah, he's like a big, overgrown, disgusting kid. He just belches and drinks a 40 ouncer. Throughout the whole video. That's his thing. And and here's the thing. I think he's got more subscribers than I do. And he got like 1,200 views on this video. I'll put the link down below. I was going to talk about him. To me, this guy is the ultimate Trump supporter. I don't know if he's ever said anything political in his videos, so I don't know. But I am willing to bet the bank that this guy is a Trump supporter. Enough about Trump. All right, I've been wanting to do this video for a while now. This is an accurate and true representation of what every single holiday was like when I was using before I got into recovery. The point of this video is recovery is possible. The worst possible Christmas now that I'm clean and sober is still better than the best Christmas that I had using. There was no best Christmas when I was using. What I really want to talk about is New Year's Eve. I remember, I thought about this. I don't think I've ever done a video about this. I was the most popular guy, leading right up to New Year's Eve. I'm going to explain that to you. No, I'm not kidding around. I'm serious. In a sad way. I was like the most welcomed, popular guy every single year, New Year's Eve. And this wasn't people that are addicts. These are people, your regular, run-of-the-mill people celebrating New Year's Eve. And I'll get into that more in a second because I still harbor some ill will towards these people. All right, my Christmas, whenever a holiday would come up, I'd be in a panic because I'd been addicted. I was addicted for over 2.5 decades, and I started out with weed, cocaine, crack, heroin, and pills, then heroin, assorting heroin. And once you're in, there's no way out. And it's not partying, it's just you need it every single day just to function. If you don't have it immediately, first thing in the morning, you start messing yourself, throwing up, hot and cold, fever, and it's a mental thing too. It's ungodly. I can't even describe it to you guys. If you ever heard of restless leg syndrome, your entire body gets like that. And you can't stop moving. That's what they call kicking the habit. You can't stop moving and you can't sleep. And when I say can't sleep, I mean you cannot shut your eyes for 3-4 days. And you can't stop moving, and you become so tired and exhausted and dehydrated from leaking out of every orifice of your body. it is a pure hell. So you're terrified because on Christmas you have to be with your family. You know, you're supposed to see your family. So every single year I would do this, and I think all addicts do this. You stock up before Christmas. So you go, because even dealers have families, and a lot of times they would not be around immediately Christmas morning. So you knew you had to get your supply before then. And this is what happened every single year. I would be in hell right now at this time. The day after Christmas. I'll explain this to you. Like I said, I would stock up. I'd buy what they call whatever money I had. If I had to bring, I actually brought back presents. I unwrapped presents and brought them back to the store to get the money to buy the drugs, so that I could go and see my family with no presents. And what would happen every year is I wouldn't be able to stop using. I'd start using the stuff as soon as I got it, like Christmas Eve day. And I would be awake all night. Like when you do heroin, you stay awake in a nodding fashion. You're not out. So every time I came to, I'd do more. And I'd be awake and high all night long. And this is just, I couldn't control myself. And this is the same with all addicts. And by morning, I'd usually have like one bag left or half a bag left. You know, barely anything left. And just enough to get me through the morning and early afternoon with my family. And by the time I got home, I'd be crashing. I'd get home at like 4 p.m. My family does holidays early. And I remember every single year, I still remember this, laying on the couch and just crashing. And this is what happens when you go into withdrawals. And this would happen every single year on Christmas. I'd run out of money, I'd run out of drugs, I'd be totally spent on Christmas Day, and I'd crash. And I would sleep for like 24 hours because your body recuperates. But then when you wake up into the pure hell of withdrawals. Like today, right now, I would be just rolling back and forth in my bed. I remember I would lay down in the hallway, I'd lay down on the kitchen floor, I'd lay down in the living room, in the bathroom, anywhere, just trying to stop moving, to stop fidgeting, to stop getting sick. And this lasts for days. And the only thing that keeps going through your head, there's just one thing that just keeps playing through your head. Just a little bit could stop this. Just a tiny bit. Whatever I can do to get it, I have to get it to stop this pure hell. It is torture. It is pure, real torture. And this happened. This was my life every year. Okay. Now, most addicts know that and everything. What I want to really talk about is New Year's Eve. Because I remember this. Coming up to New Year's Eve and other big events, I still remember a couple stag parties. The best friends that I had back in high school, they moved away from me because I got too into drugs. Like, we all experimented with drugs, but I got deeper and I started selling them and using them more. I had an addictive personality, the disease of addiction. My other friends stopped, and they went on to college and army and stuff like that. And they just stayed away from me, and I don't blame them. But on New Year's Eve, or before like a stag party or any kind of big festive event, I get a phone call from them. Hey, how you doing, Daryl? Just, missed you, man. I want to see you. Because I was the guy. Because when these people don't use, New Year's Eve is the day that people that don't use will use cocaine. I don't know if it's still like this, but it was back 20 years ago. All the people I went to high school with. I still remember this. I was like 15 years old, and it was my first New Year's Eve. And I went to a party, and I hadn't started using coke yet. And a bunch of my friends and people went into one bedroom. So I went to go in with them, and the door was locked. And I was like, let me in. And they're like, who is it? And it's like, it's Daryl. No, you got anything? No. Stay out there. Because they were the people with a little bit of coke that they had gotten. And they would go in a room, and they were like the cool, now I realize the truth of this matter, but they were the cool people, and they'd go into the room, and it'd be the prettiest girls and the coolest guys and everything with their little bit of coke, their little quarter-gram of coke that they would do on New Year's Eve. And they'd be straight. They deny it the next day. They deny they ever touched this stuff, But every New Year's Eve, this was their thing. And now, once I got older, once I got like 18, by the time I turned 21, I started dealing. I started going down to the Bronx, right down near Yankee Stadium, and buying the stuff from Dominican gangs, like for a third of the price that it sells up here. And I would go down every week to the Bronx and get it, and come back up here and sell it, and triple my money in a matter of hours. Like, I'd go down, I'd spend $1,000, I'd make $3,000 in one day. And come New Year's Eve, I'd get phone calls. I became the most popular guy. All of a sudden, the people that were around me that used to be my friends would call me up, because I was the only guy that could get these drugs. I was the guy, the go-to guy, the only guy they knew that was involved in this scene. So all of a sudden, they would buddy up to me right before New Year's or before a stag party or something like that. And, hey, you want to come to this, come to my party, and, oh, hey, by the way, man, can you get anything? And I every year, it got to the point where I knew I was being used. So I would just use them back. I would charge them like 4 times as much I would charge anybody else. If I'm going to be used, I might as well get mine out of it too. And I would go to these parties, and I would go home with one of their girlfriends, or I would take whatever I could from the situation. I would use, the idea in my head was I would use them as bad as they were using me, which honestly just made it worse. It really did. It was no way to live. I still remember this stag party where one of my best friends from high school was getting married, and I ended up at the stag. I got a last minute phone call. Hey, this guy's having this. And I realized after why I got this phone call. And I show up, and there's a bunch of kegs, and it's at a golf course, a prominent golf course around here. And, I'm starting my first beer at this stag party, and all of a sudden somebody goes, hey, can you get this or that, Daryl? So they invited me so I could be the go-to guy. And we ended up, I ended up getting these guys. I fell for this one. I really didn't see it for what it was at the time. And I set these guys up, and we partied all night long. And the next morning, the kegs ended up at my house. They were left at my house, and everybody went home and were gone. And I got a phone call from the guy that was used to be my best friend. We were hanging out that whole night, having a great time, laughing. But the next morning, I got a phone call from my best friend, and he had to get the kegs back to return them. He was all worried about getting the kegs back. And he showed up at my door. And I was like, hey, man, that was a crazy night. I think it was like maybe a day or two later, actually. And I was like, that was a crazy night. Come on in, have a soda or a beer or something, No, man, I can't stay. He just came in, and he wanted to get in and out of my house. He didn't want to know me. He didn't want to talk to me. He needed those kegs. He needed to get the kegs out of my house to return them. But he didn't want to say a word to me. He didn't, he didn't even want to look at me. He just went in, where's the kegs? I can't stay. I got to go, because he got in trouble with his wife or his girlfriend, So every year, every time there were these big events, these guys would gravitate to the bad guy, to the guy, the go-to guy, to me. And, use me for a day or two. And then they'd go home to their families, their girlfriends, their wives, or whatever. And talk terrible. We ran into Daryl. He's a mess. Oh my God. He's down. And they'd run me under the bus and everything, and again, and write me off for another year. And I went along with it. This was the life I led. It was a pathetic, sad life. And I think about that as New Year's Eve is coming up. I guarantee you, this is happening all around this country. This New Year's Eve. I'm very sure things haven't changed. And there's going to be the people out there that use their pills or their whatever. And all of a sudden, they're going to get a call from, the people that have ignored them for a year. Hey, man, come to my party. What's up? And hey, can you get this? Can you still get this? Because we were the guys the go-to guys that were used every year. Recovery is possible. It's a much better life. All right, I will be back with another video today. You guys have a great Tuesday, a great Boxing Day. Recovery is possible, man. It's the best life I could ever have imagined in the last 17 years, since October 23rd of 2006. You guys have a good Tuesday.